Welcome to Carl DeGregorio's Session67. Please don't make reference to that youth thing. I will say, I had non-viral, insane, outbursty kind of onomatopoeia, non sequitur, like things that I would shout in the hallways. And I don't know if this is everywhere. Maybe it is now because, the internet has shrunk the hallways of high school. And I'm sure we all romanticize our youth as, we were exquisitely original, and perhaps not. I get all that. I do know, though, the Northeast, particularly northern New Jersey, is full of characters. I think we can say that. Without shunning other populations, if you know what I'm saying. And there was an individualism streak in a lot of anything after the first me generation, right? So it just got more so. So what I'm saying is, maybe it was just my crew, but there were some guys I didn't even hang out with that would say random shit out loud, and things took on lives of their own. And before the art kids and the drama kids and all those kids, they didn't have the corner of the market necessarily on creativity. And some of the rough and tumble kids, they had their own version of these things. And it may have been, antisocial, or it may have been referencing drinking to excess on the weekends. But things got sort of... So that's the only reason I'm going to mention the 67. I don't even want to say it because it's just become so... I don't even know. It's not... things do come back around, but there are these sort of phenomena that come through. And like I said, we just didn't have the reach we have today with the internet. So, for example, if I was able to spend a summer in Ohio, which isn't the bastion of exoticness, but the fact that I got to spend, 6 weeks in Ohio at Oberlin, which was like a freak show compared to where I grew up, that added to a cachet of worldliness, if you can actually believe it. And we weren't in the demographic of rich kids where some would go to Europe. I guess that would start to happen in high school and stuff like that. But what I'm saying is now the phone is your travel device. And so the idea of things becoming viral and ubiquitous and TikTok challenges and stuff, that was a world away from us. And I'm sure there's overlap in parallel thinking and party culture. And a lot of it was 80s. 80s monoculture coming out of Hollywood, you know what I mean? Or the John Hughes thing. But the idea that this makes no sense to anybody, we had this kind of stuff. For some reason, we said "brtia" out loud in the hallways, right? That was our version of 6-7 or whatever. And, boot, we would just make noises. We'd scream nectar at the top of our lungs in the hallway. And that was a reference to drinking and things like that. And so there was always that crazy thing, and it's not for you. And so when you see, on John Oliver's show, the sort of the clip reels of how insipid and how banal and basic bitch all the local news anchors are when they're all talking about the same fucking things as if they are hip. It's cringe, right? To refer to another youth term. But that cringe is just, all of these things are just updates. They're just updates. Cringe was, you should be fucking embarrassed. Fucking nerd. Cringe, nerd. Just, we use different terms for it. And ultimately, in many cases, in the cringe instance, an artist, a band geek, an actor, even an A student who was more along the lines of speech and debate, and you could see their future being down the line in poli-sci and being that sort of tie wearing, getting a job as a page or something like that on Capitol Hill. Like, those were the cringy kids of their time, and its earnestness is what is being mocked. Earnestness, cluelessness, and all of it can tilt to admirable, right? If it's cringy to watch a guy in his 50s dancing to old school hip hop and popping and locking, and the comments are cringe, sure. I mean, already the idea that a tripod is set up at any age, and how do you fake the funk? It was effortlessly cool when it was gate kept, when models and actors were scouted and plucked out of obscurity. Your Chloe Sevigny's, they had an effortless cool, but now you are doing it yourself. Everybody's courting it. So right away you've lost the idea that you were discoverable, or now you do have to put yourself out in there. So like, cringe is literally a backhanded way to say, don't be earnest, don't care about what you do, don't care about what you say, don't be avid, don't be enthusiastic. We've talked about that. And it can be swung as a cudgel, and it's just been abbreviated. Things have been cringe-worthy, which is really all it is an abbreviation of cringe-worthy, which was not coined any time recently. Certainly in movie reviews, in any paper, you could say the cringe-worthy section of such and such, and things like that. And so, as an artist, as a person who's a striver, as an enthusiastic person, as a hopeful person who fights the battle of light and dark, but who self-edits because of insecurity, to be honest with you, I stifle the urge often to express myself because of a fear of being cringeworthy. And that's a terrible hindrance for an artist. And, and that was the precept in almost every acting class, every single one, no matter what the technique, no matter how polar opposite the technique or the belief system, or what the end result of it was, like a Nirvana to be on stage, or if it's a real mercenary scene study class to get you TV work, or if it's an audition. All of it is, you have to be willing to embarrass yourself, right? So you have to fight through, and you have to be willing to be judged as cringeworthy. Otherwise, you'll never get to those exultant moments on stage, or in comedy, or in music, or in a song. You'll never get there if you're worried about being cringeworthy, because it's the tightrope we walk. Every inch of my one-man show is teetering on the edge of cringeworthy, right? Because I'm asking people to come watch a play that has one person in it, and I'm talking about my feelings, and I'm offering up anecdotes that don't involve bloodshed or bank robbery. They're anecdotes of a very, very not a lot of plot and not a lot of high stakes, but the anecdotes are told because they are true to the spirit of what I'm trying to get across, or they are what I've lived, and so I don't want to goose up the biographical truth. So I didn't rob banks. I didn't I didn't run with the bulls. I didn't do any of these things. And yet I still think my anecdotes have the sense of peril to the ego, peril to your feelings, peril to your sense of comfort, and things like that. And I think we all forget. And if the truth of the matter is that public speaking, and I don't know where the fuck this list and this notion that it's been codified, but the notion that public speaking is a number 2 or number 1 greatest fear is I'll take it because I do it, and so I want to be known or feel as if I am courageous. But if that's true, then, aren't we over that now? And if that's true, then wouldn't we admire more public speaking people? And if that's true, then I don't know where that data comes from, and I'm willing to accept it. All I'm saying is, the mere act of saying I was at a dance in high school, and I was afraid to ask a girl to dance. Yes, not war torn, not a story of valor, but it's the palette I have, right? All this to say that could be cringe-worthy or cringe. And obviously what's cringe, and I've told you this story where I said something at a deli counter to the deli worker, and a dude behind me was like editing my speech because I used a youthful reference. You can't say that, you're too old to say that. And I was like, okay. So I get it. I'm not trying to be the eternal teenager like Dick Clark or anything like that. And concessions, I suppose, have to be made to age, but I was probably a more mature youth. So all of this is how I am, not anything I'm trying to affect. And because if I have any sort of pride in my own idiosyncratic syntax, I'm going to say things the way I want to say them anyway. And it expands, and you shouldn't stop learning or stop ingesting. And so it is cringe to see these anchor people in Kentucky or in fucking any small market, Iowa or whatever, saying 6'7". What the hell do they mean? It's like, I don't know. I don't care. I probably would have been recalcitrant. If I were that age group, I'd be a non-participant. I would be a contrarian, and that in and of itself is not a flex. Yeah, there's another one I'm not supposed to say. That's not a humble brag or a flex, because I don't know that my contrarian ways were anything other than a way to individuate, or a way to be a sticky wicket, or a way to pose at individualism, that was either not earned or earned. And to be contrarian, I think what they mean is sometimes you take the anti for the sake of taking the anti, whether you believe it or not, or just to pose, just to be a little bit of a jouster. And I find that part of my personality the less attractive part. And if I've ever bonded with people and made friends and had contacts from the nether parts of the culture, or from ancillary relationships or intimate relationships, any relationships, if I really boil it down, those were probably tolerated aspects of my personality, not the thing that drew people to me. And that's, I think, the thing people might want to think about, discover about themselves, that a lot of people love you because of what is innate, and an energy, and or the first impression, or the thing that is the overriding system of your communicating. And mistakenly, you being pedantic, or you being the guy who fills in the blanks with a useless trivia point, or someone who's a contrarian, or someone who always plays devil's advocate, or someone who likes to argue, a lot of the times, because of your good fortune, in my case, to have a lot of friends, to have a lot of intimate friendships, and just a lucky person with people, guess what? You might mistake that the thing they like about you is the thing you don't really manifest day to day, or the thing that they may like about you may be that you're a nice guy, and that occasionally you get grumpy, or occasionally you gotta start a fucking argument, and they tolerate it. But because you forget that these things are chemical, or they are based on one kindness. There's people that I kind of don't jam with personally. I don't jam with them ideologically. I don't crave their company, but they extended a kindness to me, and so I tolerate all those other attributes that aren't my favorite, and I have to hold them into some esteem as a person of merit, or, and it doesn't mean I have to be up in their grill all the time. It just means, I guess what I'm saying is actions, not words. And also, like, what you espouse may not be your personality, and that's the thing that is happening. And one thing that is sort of interesting about this sort of internet culture or social media culture is you're starting to see patterns and things that aren't original thoughts coming recycled and regurgitated, I should say. And so when you see someone, try not to make your whole personality blank, or an example of when somebody makes their whole personality blank. And that's what I'm really referring to. Because for a long time, my personality was my interest in theater. And I made that a personality, and I bet you some of my friends who know me still today were like rolling their eyes. Here we go. I mean, I literally walked around with a book of sonnets like a douche, like a fucking douche. You know what I mean? I used to steal napkin holders and fucking silverware from diners, and I used to wear a fork on my denim jacket. Like my buddy from Texas was like, you wore a fork on your fucking jacket, and he still liked me. And that wasn't enough for him to throw me in the scrap heap of weirdo. And that's what, again, you were peacocking, or you were trying to be an individual. And ultimately, for me, kind is as kind does. And that's where I want to spend my time, or inspirational people, or positive people. And so you also have to remember that a lot of people are working this shit out, and these trends are now crammed down your throat if you participate in popular culture. And so, unfortunately, there's a record of you acting like a douchebag nowadays. There's not a record of me fucking, being a douche, being a wise ass, catcalling, or whatever I might have done that is potentially cancelable or shameful. Maybe not cancelable, but there's no record of that. Thank God, right? Is what all the Gen X and boomers and all the boastful people that are gloating about pre-internet. It's like the internet was created by us, not us, meaning I don't really participate in that, but we unleashed it on this present generation, and now we want to fucking lament what it's done to them and what it's done to us. You know what I mean? Asbestos isn't good for you at any age. And so, how do you remediate social contagion? How do you remediate a cancer of the spirit? How do you remediate a cancer of morals, or whatever, decay? Or how do you put forgiveness back into the culture when someone, God forbid someone saw me call somebody a B word or something like that, or whatever the young, and so the idea that, thank God I don't have a record of that. It's there, but for the grace go I, right? But we all live in the outrage society where it's, you can't wait to shut somebody down because they said something fucked up on a hot mic. And I'm doing it right now. I'm on a hot mic. And I would venture to say that slow growth in this industry, or slow growth in this endeavor, is because what I clip out and what I talk about is all funneled through my innate politeness and my innate wish to be liked, and my innate how do I put it, not conservative in value system, but conservative nature of exposure of self. And this is why I bring things back to a more philosophical thing, because it's really not important what I think about certain things. It's really that I'm not as informed as I would need to be. And yet, I should be encouraging to the fact that once in a while, somebody's intellect or spirit or heart will get ignited by some new popular culture thing that for me was old news. But you forget that not everybody starts, in the same lane or on the same page. And, and that's what a lot of pod culture, culture is that a lot of these people are, have a platform and they're discovering things that were de rigueur to you because of, an erudite family you grew up in, or always being around older people, or being a reader yourself, or just who you flocked with. So who am I to, maybe the audience of that podcast is discovering these things for the first time along with the host. And so isn't that the goal, And, but I would say that my slow growth in this situation is I don't court controversy. I don't court negative attention. Again, any of the begging for attention teen years, for me, I tried to seek attention with accomplishment. Some kids, the troubled kids, just want attention, and then there's the kids who get it by mandate or by intrinsic charisma or whatever it may be. The good luck of being born on a block where, there's these pockets. I don't know about your hometown, but there was one high school, but multiple schools before high school. And so there were all these little cliques of groups of kids who went to certain schools before we melded into the high school. And so, you could be lucky to be born with your soulmates on your block, and that never changes. And so, the idea that you met your people in high school or in grade school is a blessing, right? The cats who were a bit outcast and couldn't wait to get away from the town, they wanted to recreate a new identity, and their soulmates are there, or your first job, or getting into the workforce, or, making your family your priority. All these things are just ways people kind of get through. And I guess as I sort of meander in a point there, because I was talking about cringeworthiness and earnestness, but it feels like I haven't done this in a while because I stacked the last couple to make a trip home. And so I guess that's the point also, is while I had content in the bank and I was able to continue the process and not skip a week and all that stuff, this was absent for a couple of weeks. And so I guess I noticed it, is what I'll say, because things that we have to do in our lives, with our families, holidays, good things, tough things, it will kind of interfere with, what you're doing. And I guess some of my, how do I put it? Some of my woe, or some of my distance to travel for my own fulfillment is, it has to be that important that you still persist in your endeavors, whether you have family stuff or not. Meaning, if you're an active doctor, or carving out time is doable, but also you don't stop doing your thing, and so I guess it's a long, boring, sloppy way to say I'm grateful to get back to it. And I guess that's a clue into, where I may have to transition into my work life, is I am eager to get back to it. I think I've mentioned this on the pod. I went to school with a woman, and her dad was a very prominent psychiatrist in Los Angeles, and he had a book, in that realm. He would have taken off in this day and age, but many years ago, probably in the 80s, he wrote a book called like Thank God It's Monday, I think was the title. And I guess it was addressing workaholism. So Thank God It's Monday is clever wordplay on Thank God It's Friday, right? TGIF, and Friday's the restaurant, is the original title is Thank God It's Friday. And everybody's working for the weekend, and the guy's name is The Weekend, and he can't feel his face because I can't feel my face. And so like he's saying that there's the sentiment being Thank God It's Monday is literally the guy who can't wait to get off the fucking lawnmower and get back to the office, either because he is king of his domain or because he's obsessed with his work, or maybe because whatever. The idea of workaholism being I don't know if that's an actual DSM thing, but I find myself a bit and I work weekends as a person in the restaurant, but as I got out of the as I guess I got more infrastructure into the industry I want to be in, right? Then the Monday is important because you aren't getting auditions on Saturday and Sunday, and so the idea of like I kind of want Monday to come around because like then I'm still kind of in it to win it. And if you haven't sort of made your life so balanced, the idea of your life, your real life would be, and people who live for the weekends are partly lucky because they work all hard and they know they have no quip or qualm or anxiety about their leisure time. And if they have families, then they can't wait to be home for the weekend. So thank God it's Friday. But if you're a Thank God It's Monday guy, man, that's something to think about, to work about. And I think the crux of the book was more of like that type of dude would have an impact on his family. They'd feel his distance. They would be in shrinks offices years later because their dad was a Thank God It's Monday guy, not a Thank God It's Friday. And maybe all of us are Thank God It's Friday when we're young and partying and trying to date and mingle and all that stuff. But in the restaurant business, it's like today's my Friday is what you'll hear when it's and you hear that every fucking shift because it's a different one for everybody because most people are on the hook for the weekend. So when they say today's my Friday, it's like they're finally getting their days off. And, it's a different perspective. And having to work is tough. And, and not doing... It's an interesting quandary we've placed ourselves in our culture, and I don't want to America bash, but it is a very for me it is a very caged feeling, to be honest with you. And if I won't show, I think it's not my, it's one of my what's the word? Boundaries, if you will. I won't show you my dream board because I have even some embarrassment. It's cringy that I do a dream board, or it isn't. I mean, maybe I have to let all that shit go and remember that I was the kid that didn't give a shit, I fought through the cringiness and I got rewarded for it, for bravery and for being that crazy motherfucker. Oh, Carly's crazy, But one of them is a bird flying. It's an image of a bird flying, and cliche as it may be, but that symbolizes freedom. And having those Thank God It's Monday or Thank God It's Friday feelings, those are exhalations of feeling cage for the week. And that's why those songs of exuberance, everybody's working for the weekend. Look out weekend, here I come, 'cause weekends were made for fun, little Debbie Deb, all of that speaks to the drudgery of work also, and the freedom of release. And, I've been a holdout thus far, and I'm trying to find a way, and I will be forced to forge ahead in a different way. But Freedom is the big issue for me, and having to quote unquote go back to work or adhere to a schedule that is not all my own. That is the thing that as I put aspirations out there, it's not that I don't want to work. Most people wouldn't have done this long with no payoff if they were lazy or didn't want to put some effort out there. I want to put effort where I want to put effort, but I want to do it in my terms, on my time, and how do you stay afloat that way? And so that's the wish. And if we're heading into the holidays and the new year, like, that is why, even though I didn't skip a week because I stacked an episode, I need this time for my own edification, for my own goal setting, for my own intention setting, all of these squeamish things for some of us. It was missed, even though I kind of did my earnest best. I met my deadline. I kept my streak going. And ultimately, freedom would mean freedom from my own oppressing myself, So I told you jokingly that I've joked with my girlfriend about my self-help book is nobody cares, so why should you, So I can take a week off and I don't have to stack, and I can go away, or I can do a short one, or I can say no desk session this week. I can do what I have the freedom to do that. And I may be hammering myself with too much pressure to achieve, but what I finally have been lucky to discover, just as we speak, is that I like doing this, and so otherwise, why do it? And sort of, thank God it's whatever day it is that I tape these, because this is in the direction of contemplating where my show is going. The thing I have to remember, and the thing that there's a book up at the top of the shelf there. Stephen Pressfield talks about going pro. Stephen Pressfield famously wrote The War of Art, and his follow-up to The War of Art is Going Pro. And the idea that everything shuts down because I went home, I think that book would belie that, as that's not the, it's only going to work if you keep your appointments with yourself. If the thing you want to take over is important, then, and that's why staying in an acting class, or when I did stand up, having sets every week, like all of these things were going pro, and meaning that when the going pro also talks about the critics out there and the NIOPs. My friend talks about that, the negative influence of other people, NIOPs. Like those are the minefields you have to fight. And going pro means you persevere through that. And if I can take some pride in the desk sessions that I still managed to pull off episodes with a death in the family in Dallas, and and I didn't, like I said, I didn't miss a week, but I didn't get the interface that makes this worth it to me. I didn't get that interface. I fed the content treadmill, but I didn't get the interface as antiseptic and as singular and as vain and egocentric as it is to be a vlogger, or whatever you want to call this, a solo pod or whatever. I didn't get to do it. And I can stack them and then be so far ahead that I keep them in the can. But there is it's tough, because there is a living, breathing element to what we do as artists, that the screens are sort of beating out of everybody. And it's almost the reason things like hostility and negativity and arguing, the reason why that gains traction is it's probably almost like a register in the scale it's an earworm. Oh wait, it just sounds like people fucking talking, which I want to tune out. A lot of people want to tune that out. But when people start yelling or getting hyperbolic or cursing or saying shit, that's when when your ears prick up. And so I think that's why the negativity really fuels the process on the screens, on the social media, on the podcasting, on the that whole thing. And so if you're trying to be earnest and cringy and talk about process and be about aspiration, and maybe it's a neutered thing, because I mean, people who don't know me personally, I get fired up. I have temper issues, and I have opinions about stuff. I just think that, it's probably the training I've had for years as a bartender, but there's no politics and no religion at the bar. That's been shot to shit, because now people don't fucking care about any decorum. But when I was back there, I would stop people. There's that movie Sleepers with Brad Pitt and Jason Patrick and Dustin Hoffman, and it's set in Hell's Kitchen, and there's a scene at the late great McHale's bar. I don't think McHale's is still there anymore, and McHale's was in the 40s on 8th Ave, I think. Great burger and a great little restaurant in the back, but it was kind of, a little bit, it was like a hockey bar. You go watch Ranger games there and shit like that, but it had a reputation in the 70s and 80s as a location for a hangout for the Westies, so you had to be, I was there in the early 90s, mid 90s, so I don't know if any of that was still a lure, or still prevalent, but I was probably oblivious and just drinking beers, but I'd usually go in the back. I never really sat at the bar. But there's a scene in Sleepers set at McHale's where these suits are just sort of like getting a couple pops before they head back to the suburbs or what it might be, and they forget themselves and they start talking shit a little loud. And the two characters, the Ron Eldard and Billy Crudup characters, who are like Westies, gangsters, they say send them around drinks and tell them to shut the fuck up, and because they don't like the topic. And they also, so the bartender walks up and he puts two shot glasses upside down in front of me. He says, the rules, guys, no politics and no religion. This next round's on them. And the Michaela, they say something about the Kennedys and the Democrats, I think, and the dudes look down the fucking bar and they see these two fucking guys who will fuck them up and are remorseless killers. But they gave the guys a chance to correct their course, and so the two suits know that they are in the presence of a real article. They raised their glasses, accepted the drinks, and they understood. And I don't know if a lot of that's happening anymore at bars. I wouldn't step in when people would be muttering to each other and basically having a we agree on the issue conversation. That's not my place to interrupt them and say, don't talk politics. But when it gets heated or it starts to get, and people start chiming in, then I have to cut it off. And I don't even know if that sensibility is, obviously not, because that rule, I apply that rule to everything, to social media, to new people. I just don't want to get into politics and religion with people I don't know, and probably even with people I do know, because I'd rather keep affection for you than to hear the fuck what you got to say. But all I'm saying is, maybe, and I can't start analyzing. There's probably a million things I'm doing wrong, but I'm not going to bait for eyeballs. I want to talk about my earnest approach to the week, I guess, is what this is winding up to be. I want to earnestly talk about any progress I'm having with my show, which is what this all started out to be. And, the part of the thank God it's Monday, it's like, thank God it's January 15th, because I haven't set my life up to where there's enough going on or enough to feel like I can take a break and welcome a break. I want to get started, and so these seasonal shutdowns of the real world, they flummox me because I want to get to work. I want to figure out what's next. And maybe I should see if I can find a copy of that book, because maybe I am a Thank God It's Monday guy. I even didn't mind school sometimes. I mean, I did get the Sunday blues, which was a real thing. I remember getting that in college because we worked, around the clock, and then we got one day off was Sunday, and Sunday night would come and be like, oh man, it wasn't so much the day of Monday, it was the gauntlet that you weren't going to see relief till the next Sunday. I think that's where that comes, is the sustained effort. And they say, I don't know, I probably do agree with this, that hybrid person. I think I'm an introvert that forced myself and trained myself to be extroverted. They say the introvert needs a lot of powering, recharging, So I'm like a Tesla. Because if you give away a lot of your energy to people, and that's a conservation I'm working on too, interpersonally. I can't be all things to everybody, and I can't expect everybody to be all things to me. And that's, not to get into politics or religion, but that's where a spiritual side of things, you have to think about it. You have to think about other ways to fill your cup, And I'll just I don't know if any of my themes stayed on target, but I guess I'll leave it at that you have to be the one replenishing your spirit. You can take joy from the presence of others and the shared responsibility of creating joy with your partner and your family. But even that still is, you have to carry your own water. And when you have excesses, you fill someone else's cup. I think I'm straddling in. I know that is I joke. I have a joke in the show. I'll preview a joke in the show, but I say something about a quote from the Bible, which in the show I say, which I haven't read. Being Catholic, I haven't read it. I know that cup runneth over and all that stuff is from a text, but and whether it's your belief system or not, there is wisdom in some of the ancient texts. And so anyway, thank God it's going to be Tuesday for this to be airing or to be released. And thankfully I'm back at it, even though it didn't seem like that to those out there. So let's stay on course. I don't have a lot to report about the progress of the show, other than I'm kind of in a holding period, fingers crossed on something, and that is another axiom is don't put all your eggs in one basket. But right now, I'm doing that, and I wouldn't know what to do if I kind of don't hit pay dirt there. But I'll work it out, and we got to find a way. I'm not done yet, and it's tough. It's tough right now. It's tough to feel like it's worth hanging on. It's just it's all faith at this point. I am walking. I am in a dark room, trying not to bump into furniture. As far as how I'm feeling about all the information about California, about the industry, about AI, and I don't want to end on a downer, but we're going to keep going, and I don't know, find a way. So I'll see you next week. This was the 67th Death Session. Peace.